Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. For going deep into Sattology and the issues of Itihas, there is a 12x debunking mythology course, which all of you must join. The links are in all the videos going forward. And if you are looking for yoga certification, authentic yoga certification based on Patanjali Yoga Sutra, then also we have a new course starting 12x Yoga Sutra. So I have very special guest is Acharya Rishi, and now you know exactly who I'm talking about. And also I will say more than a PhD, because PhDs sometimes are not doing PhD job. Some of them are even applying for PhD pune jobs in India. So let us welcome Sri Nilesh Oak.
Namaskar Aditya ji, and happy to be here.
So before I put a clarification, pune work is also very glorious. So, and it's not that they are any low, because everyone is a pune in their house practically. And before we start off, I was looking at the history of Oxford and Cambridge, and I thought that everything is based on Aristotelian thought and how to destroy the Aristotelian thought, destroy Plato, Socrates. And the funny thing is, Abrahamism usurped all those philosophies and came up with their own, which was based on skepticism. And so, this is what happened. And now, somebody from Cambridge researcher has found some eureka moment in some Sanskrit shloka, which I know millions have already observed it. So, what is your view on that?
Okay, my quick view. I have views on everything. My quick view is you said they caught up with, or rather, through all this filtering, churning that they went through, they ended up with the skepticism. Skepticism, like Sangsha, is not a most appropriate equivalent word for skepticism, but close translation. So, for example, the problem with, I wouldn't say the Greek skepticism, because frankly, we know so little about Greeks. And by we, I don't mean you and me. Actually, we as a humanity, we know so little about Greeks. People will tell you, oh, there is that Plato's Republic and so on and so forth. Yes, that exists. But then they many of the narrations that you come for, say, Thales, Anaximander, Xenophanes, and then many others, Aristarchus, number of these narrations have been built very artificially. That is not to say that those greats did not exist, and they could be much greater, frankly, than how they are projected. But their narrations about these great Greeks or Greek greats are basically manufactured, synthesized in, say, last 1,000 years. So that is approximately 1,500 years after the actual time of these Greek folks. Think it this way. Christianity looked at Romans and Greeks as pagan, okay, did a tremendous job of destroying the Roman monuments. Greek monuments, in fact, the Greek monuments are completely leveled off. There is a very little of the Greek glory that is left behind. Okay, that's a fact. Greeks will tell you that, and if you visit Greece, Athens, and surrounding area, you will notice how much has been destroyed. That was destroyed by Christians, okay, the Crusaders and fanatic Christians, and so on, because it was seen as a pagan culture. If you go to Rome, and I'm sure you have gone, but if you go to Colosseum, for example, and it's still very grand, and of course, like if you talk to, if you read about it, or if you talk to the guide there, or what guide will explain, but I'm not just saying you have to listen to the guide, you can actually go and look at it. He will say, if you want to see, the guides will tell you. And I used to go there on a business, and my local friends would say that. I mean, they are practicing Christians, but they had that, fortunately, they have the objectivity to say this. They said, if you want to see how glorious was this Colosseum, go visit the Vatican, which of course I have visited many times, Colosseum and Vatican too. He says, all the glory that you see, all the marbles and tiles at Vatican, essentially they were pulled off from the Colosseum and taken it there. Okay, so that's the background. Now quickly on a samshaya or a skepticism that you said. The problem that you see, and that's why when these Western Indologists come and or came in the past, and even to this day they come, and many Indian organizations, okay, government supported, non-government supported, private company supported. I mean, as Raju Malhotra is talking about snakes in the Ganga. Uh, I mean, our organizations are incapable of understanding this game that the West is playing with the help of Western Indologists or their lackeys in India. Okay. So, what happens is when they will show skepticism, that the skepticism that you mentioned, when they're looking at the Indian narratives. But there is zero idea. These folks, these Indologists, and I'm making a tall claim. I'm willing to say some Indologists, Western or their lackeys, come forward and say, Nilesh, what are you talking? Why are you saying we don't understand science? We don't have Vijnana Buddhi. We don't have scientific acumen. We do not draw logical conclusions based on the study of the Grantha, Indian Grantha, Hindu Grantha. Why do you say that? I want somebody to come and challenge me. Okay, Aditya, I'm waiting for it. Nobody comes. They run away. They refuse to respond, and so on and so forth. The point is the skepticism that they use. So, in the word that we have is a samshaya, the closest translation. But we have we meaning in the Indian philosophy, the Adhyatma and Tattvajnana and Darshana tradition, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattvajnanartha Darshanam, and that area of a knowledge. Samshaya is of a two kinds. It could be of a many kinds. I'm just saying limiting to two. Samshaya of a mind and Samshaya of a buddhi. What the Western Indologists and their lackeys, and by the way, some of the pro-Indic folks, but otherwise who are brainwashed with this rubbish, they also, to them, संशय means संशय of a mind. मुझे ऐसा लगता है लेकिन वो ऐसा कह रहे थे according to that person's opinion, but my opinion is this, I don't agree with this, I am not convinced. That is a bullshitter's language. It's bullshitting, pure bullshitting. You say that does not make sense because here is the evidence, here is what it says that contradicts this particular claim, that contradicts this somebody's viewpoint. That's the language of a science. Not like, but mujhe itna pasand nahi hai, I am not convinced. What the hell do you mean you are not convinced? Okay, all the evidence that we have is always limited and it's scant. So what is required? The samshaya of a buddhi is required, which is to say, again, we will go into the Nyaya Darshana, or we go into the modern scientific method, triangulation of explanation, prediction, testing in the context of a theory, in the context of a background knowledge, doing all this business to solve a tough problem, not solved by anybody else, not solved by any other existing theory. This is not sufficient. You have to even answer, why do you want to solve this problem? What is the bigger outcome? What is the prayojana? What is the sa-prayojana? Prayojana, not only prayojana, sa-prayojana. Prayojana in the sense, just, I want to know is not sufficient. Sa-prayojana meaning, damn it, you do something about it. You take to tapasya. Don't ask somebody else to do it. Those are the requirements. Nyaya Darshana talks about in Avayava 10 different factors, 10 different avayava. They have to be combined together for anything. Western Indologists, as far as the Indian study is concerned, they will not go beyond 1, 2, or 3 out of these 10. Back to you, Aditya-ji. But that's how pathetic, how lousy the level of research is.
Like, if you ask any of these Vedic researchers what is Shastra, they won't be able to define that. Simple thing. They'll say, oh, Purana is not Shastra. Or they will say Upanishad is not Shastra. I only think of Veda as Shastra. They will often, because the Shraddha is not there, which is missing.
On the other hand, there is something else that I will also tell you. Because the other side of it, this is from my discussion with either a professor or a PhD postdoc student in Indology from I cannot remember which university, but the conference I'm referring to, we had folks from all the so-called who's who in Europe and Americas, and frankly, even outside, like Japan, Hong Kong, China, and whatnot. So there, I will tell you the other funny part. Like the word Shastra is also used in a generic sense. Okay. So, for example, what could be the good example? Uh, okay. So, Vyakarana Shastra. Okay. That's one. Or say Vastu Shastra, Kama Shastra. Okay. And there could be, you can list many. Now, some of these, when the word Shastra is used, it is not used in the sense of a science in the sense of like a empirical and so on. Like sometimes it's the norm. For example, if you say the what you call say the traffic rule shastra. Okay, so the traffic rules, yes, there is some first principles, there is some fundamental understanding how the rules are made, but the rules get made in a different way. Or one more thing I will add, the justice shastra. Suppose we say the judicial system shastra, then that shastra is not to be compared with, say, physics or chemistry or biology, because chemistry does not act the way you want it to act. Chemistry works the way chemistry works. Okay, just like a human body works, the human body works. Animals work in a certain way. Whereas with a judicial system, we define the rules. Yeah, we can still call it a Nyaya Shastra, not to confuse with the Nyaya Darshana, by the way, but we'll say just like a regular civics. The civics are the rules made by us. But there is the other side, Adityaji, which this is what I'm explaining. I wanted to emphasize because, and I'm trying to think. It will be in my notes. This one guy kept on. So the conference was on the pre-modern science and technology in Asia. That was the headline of the conference. And so some guy was talking about something like this, like basically rules, even the Vakrana. What is, Adityaji, at the end of the day, what is a Vakrana? Vakran, so for example, grammar in one language, say in English, doesn't exactly work like it is in, say, Sanskrit. Doesn't exactly work in Marathi, which means what? Those are human decided rules.
That's right.
Okay. So it is not to be confused with the physics, because physics will work the way it will work here in Atlanta, will the work in the San Francisco and UK. So it needs to be distinguished. So I was actually surprised when some people were discussing some papers. I said, what is this guy doing into this conference on science and technology in pre-modern Asia? So I asked during the breaks, and it was a well-organized conference. And I said, so tell me, what is this? Whatever you are saying has to do with the science and technology. And he literally used the word. Suppose the word was like it wasn't that, but I'm saying I'm not getting any other word. So I'm saying, say, Kama Shastra. He says, well, you don't know the word Shastra, and how do you translate? Science. I just literally in my mind, I just did namaskar like this, and I said, that's the kind of absolutely low quality that you see in these conferences. But go on, sorry.
So we will start off, I think.
Yeah, let's start. So now what I'm saying is, this happens in these so-called elite and snobby places. Okay, so that's that. I mean, that's how poor it is. But the folks who have not studied, see, I will tell you, for this, Adityaji, I consider Rajiv Malhotra my guru. Okay, now Raju Malhotra learned some of the things from someone like Dr. Professor Balram Singh, who is also my guru. And you'll see the circle completing, like Professor Balram Singh, in spite of his amazing erudition and all, but he will come to me and will ask me certain questions, says, okay, what do you think is the answer? But so anyways, so this is, if you even separate out this so-called elite and snobby group, the academia, and I so far people have not asked me like why I talk about this, why I talk in this language about academia. If somebody asks, I'll say read book of Nassim Nicholas Taleb, I mean, just for the quotes, anyways, I have discussed that before. But what I want to talk is, now let's come away from it to ordinary discussion between so-called ordinary individuals. And you and me I'm including ourselves into very ordinary individuals. So where does that ordinary individual discussion takes place? It takes place in social gathering, at some festival. It takes place in social media through emails, Facebook, Twitter, comments to YouTube, and so on. I want to show something to you, and let me start sharing. Why I think, I mean, just I want to emphasize that all I can do or all we can do is convey the message, leave it to people to decide whether they are going to get something out of this or will just continue with their life. And that's everybody has a choice, the freedom of thought and freedom of choice. Why there is no alternative to Shraddha, Pramana, Viveka, Upasana, Abhyas, and you can add many things, like you can add Surya Namaskar to the list, and that totally makes sense. But directionally, Shraddha, which is to say, a individual, now this is a challenge, Aditya. I would say the individual should know. I'll give you an example. Say classical music, okay, of India. Hindustani classical, Carnataki classical. I love Hindustani more than Carnataki, but that taste is kind of improving, changing, and so on. Like I never thought I would like Drupad. When I heard the first time, actually I went into a laughter. Now Drupad is one of my favorite, if not the favorite. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that would ever happen. For that matter, if we go back to say mid 90s, like around 97, until then, I did not like Hindustani classical. I mean, I didn't know how to enjoy. I didn't know, I don't know what words they are saying, and the same line they're going on for 1 hour, 2 hours. What to do with it? What do I supposed to do? What exactly I listen to? I didn't know that. But like this is my habit, whether it's astronomy or Mahabharat, Ramayana, Rigveda, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, doesn't matter. If once I decide, I'm going to go to the bottom of it. So I remember sometime around 97, I said, you know what? I don't think I will ever able to learn music, but I want to go to the extent that at least I understand why other people enjoy this and they can listen to it for hours. So I started, literally I asked some music expert, I say, hey, if I'm learning this raga or just try to understand, listen to it, where should I start? And I tell you, the person said he or she must be thinking I'm going to learn myself. That wasn't even the idea. He said, start with a Yaman. Now I know why that person said Yaman. I had no idea what is Yaman. I mean, other than just heard the name. So I went to CD. This is the CD Jamana. I went there and got a few CDs. Just asking, hey, give me a Yaman. So Yaman Kalyan, blah, 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 Purva Kalyan, whatever. I just got it. And I said, okay, so this is Yaman. Long story short, then I possibly spent 3-4 years. So by 2000, I can say that if I listen to it, Hindustani classical most part, directionally, again, I still do not understand this sare, gama, pa, dhani, sa business. But just from the tune, recognizing the tune, if that word can be used, just listening to it, most cases, I can say exactly which rag it is. Many cases I may not able to do that, but in those cases I will say, is this similar to this or is this close to this? And the answer actually may be wrong, but I have got some 50% right, like the thought, what they call in the Hindustani system, they got it right. My point is, if you don't know something, again, you should know your limitations. I still do not consider, it's not my plan to actually learn some instrument or learn how to sing and actually perform. No, that's not, I know it's beyond me. So which means when I'm learning something more about the Sangeet, okay, Hindustani classical, Carnataki, Drupad, I go to experts. I approach them with a Shraddha. Okay. Now, what they say may not make sense to me when I finally listen, but therefore, Shraddha is required. You should know your own limitation. That's why I gave you that music as a good example. Ditto applies for a dance, and there are many other subjects. Then Pramana, like, okay, so now you want to make your further progress. Pramana, okay, understand. But that means now you need to understand a Vijnana Buddhi, you need to understand Tarka Jnana, Tantra Yukti, Shakya Prapti, so on and so forth. Viveka. Now, this is a tough one, because this is like wisdom tradition. How do you teach somebody a Viveka? I don't know, Aditya, a good example, a good way of teaching Viveka. I would say you can only tell stories like a Panchatantra, or you can say, ask somebody to read Ramdas Swami's Dasabodh. Uh, but that's not a guarantee, So I think the blessing has to come from above. At least that's how I feel. By the way, that's true for everything. Even for a Shraddha, you need a blessings coming from above, because somebody can have a Shraddha another person won't have it. Even within the Shraddha, three people can have a Shraddha and it can be of a three kinds, Sattva, Raja, Tama. There is still a problem. Then Viveka, you can also call Pradnya, which means again we have a Pradnya also of three kind. And then Upasana and Abhyasa. And many people will just hear the word and get tired of hearing these words, Sanskrit words. The fact remains, whether you call Upasana or like a hard work and tenacity, or Abhyas means literally damn it, study, doesn't matter whether you use English or Sanskrit. You have to do it if you want to know something. As soon as you say this, people will start saying excuse, oh, I have a work, and but I'm so busy with the job, as if like other people don't have a job. Okay, so guys, so if you are so busy, therefore you cannot do it, perfectly understandable. But then you have to change the strategy. Okay, decide, are you want to just stick with a Shraddha, which means now at least be that much blessed, which means also still do a japa, still do a tapa to get the right guru that you can have a Shraddha in. Okay, so here I want to give you one example. You will love it. You have been there very recently. So that's another reason you love it. As soon as I bring out the map on the screen, and you're going to laugh at this too. Okay, it is about this. And when I put one video and one comment came, into the YouTube, and I just thought I will use it. So you know where it is, of course, right? You just hired the boat and went all the way there, right? So just south of Lima, the Bay of Paracas, and right at where I'm showing now. I can't expand this figure because it's not the maps, but cut out map, a picture. But where I'm showing that red dot there is where the candelabra of Andes. Okay, Trishira Kanchanasketus Talastasya Mahatmana Stapitah Parvatasya Agre Virajati Savedika. Now, before I bring the comment, okay, and you have already done it, so you know which way you went here and came back and so on and so forth. Like you went from here to westward and then turn around and came back, correct? That's what you did. Now, so where is it? If somebody asks you, see, this is where I'm talking, Aditi ji, about Shraddha. But if people, this is where Bhagavad Gita stuff comes. Nase jnana, nase Shraddha, saushay, nasalapura. Adnyascha ashraddha dhanascha saushayatma vinashyati. How person can lead to one's own destruction if no Shraddha, no Jnana. That by definition is a saushay, skepticism, and how it can destroy you. So I'll show you and you'll like this. And again, the person has given a name, but before even I show the person's name, because I wanted to show the comment and say, just give you the feel, to the audience, that it is authentic comment. It's not like I have made it up, but it is not about that individual at all. I don't know who this individual is. In fact, the name is such that I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, and we will read that in a minute. But before I draw this particular comment, I want to ask you, Aditya, a question. So if if you visited Peru and came back, and you're saying, oh, I saw the candelabra of Andes. Somebody asks you, what is candelabra? Let me ask you. So what is candelabra of Andes? Just like in a very small 1 sentence or 2 sentence explanation. What is it?
It's a Christian candle.
It's a what?
Christian candle.
No, Christian candle, but like in terms of its location, blah, 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 what will you say?
So it's like see in the dot where they say, so this place is exactly looking at the Pacific Ocean. Open.
Correct? Yes. Yeah, it is looking at the Pacific Ocean. See, this is, I didn't know what you were going to say, and I would have used it either way, whichever way you said it. But you are saying it's exactly looking at the Pacific Ocean. We are looking at the west coast, Peru's sea coast. So it is a western coast, right? Facing Pacific. And so therefore it is facing
these maps show the inside view. But the candelabra is facing openly towards the open ocean.
Correct. Open ocean, right? Of course, it's going to say the candle. If I could expand, the candelabra is here and like facing this way. When you are going on the boat, you are going to see it, right?
It is actually facing west.
Yeah. But you're correct. No, that's right. But it's kind of direct.
Yes, you're right.
It's on a small this bay. Rock.
Yeah, it's a small bay, but it's on the other side of the bay. Like, for example, they are showing still inside, like it looks like north. But it is not exactly north. This map is wrong,
Correct. No, but what you'll find is if I would have expanded it, you will find it is on that particular extension of land that is
Exactly.
there,
Yes.
and it's on this wall, that
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Now I'll tell you what it is. Now this is what we are discussing. People, those who are watching, will say, "Oh, why are you getting so nitty gritty?" It's not you and me getting nitty gritty. When person doesn't have a shraddha, ajnascha ashraddha dhanascha samshayatma vinashyati. Nase jnana nase shraddha. Neither knowledge nor conviction nor respect for nor reverence for somebody telling. That's when this kind of disaster happen. I want to just tell it, and I want to congratulate that person. I don't know who that is, but because being so courageous to expose one's thought, out, because some people may not even write. That's why I emphasize before showing the comment, it is not about that person. It is not about the vyakti. It is about the vritti, the attitude. That's something you and me and everyone has to be careful about, right? So now that we have discussed this, now let me bring out this comment. Okay. So now what is the comment? The comment is, this is from, therefore I said, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. So my apologies to that individual. I don't know if it's a Arunav or Arunava. And if because of that, if it's a boy or a girl, I don't know that. But some Arunav Bhomik, that's what we will just use it without getting into the gender. What he wrote in response to my video about Ramayana evidence in South America or something of that effect. And you have created live videos when you visited this place, so people should watch those too. Candelabra of Andes, Paracas. He says, by referring to the map, now I didn't show this map, of course, but he took the effort. So I congratulate him. Okay. In my map, I did show something in my presentation, but I don't think I went into that much detail. But he went into the detail. So congratulations to Arunav Bhomi. But now see how the problem starts creeping in. He says, by referring to the map, it seems the candelabra of Andes is facing to the north. So he's not just referring to this map. I created this, but Adityaji, actually it is true, and you've been there, that yeah, directionally it will look like it's in the north direction, the face of it, facing to the north and hardly be seen from the west side. Now, if I see your face, then I will actually see you smiling, possibly. Okay, but listen to that fun. What is the significance of describing this symbol as a marker of east side in Valmiki Ramayana?
Right.
Now, a lot of problems with that. So first, congratulations to him or her for taking the efforts to actually go into Google Maps or some such place, looking at exactly where it is. Kudos. Okay. So as far as the empirical is concerned, he or she did their job. But the Vivek is lacking. That's my point. Okay. The Prajna is lacking. The Viveka Buddhi is lacking. Why? Okay. So I'm going to give you one example of that. But before we go there, so he says, what is the significance of describing this symbol as a marker of east side in Valmiki Ramayana? Now, why? If you just focus on this, somebody just looking at this, which is to say away from the context. Therefore, we always need to look at Desha, Kala and Patra. The place, the time and the context. It's the Sugriva. Sorry, go ahead, Aditya. You're saying something.
No, go ahead. Complete.
It's the Sugriva in India, in Karnataka, sitting there and explaining the four directions of the world. And he's explaining the east direction, keep on going until you hit this spot. That is the context. It is not somebody coming from this Chinchalta. It's not coming from there and says, yeah, I'm going south and I saw the candelabra of Andes. And somebody coming from the west here, right from this spot, and says, oh, well, I saw, somebody told me there is this Trishira Kanchanas Ketus Talastasya Mahatmana as I come from the west and I did not see it. And somebody comes from the south and I said, I have no clue what you are talking. Same thing from the west. That is like the person understands but doesn't understand. Okay, it's a problem of a viveka. Okay, empirical also the person understood. So he or she is very right in saying that it's not exactly facing the west. Okay. Now, before I go to so anyways, my comment there is this. Do read Valmiki Ramayana descriptions by Sugriva for the east direction. Sugriva explains it. And then I make a comment. We must put our own efforts to understand it, which is to say, everyone has a limitation of intellect. At some point, if you don't understand it, either find a guru, have Shraddha that if somebody is saying it, whether it's Adityaji, Nilesh, or whoever, Valmiki himself, trust that. Sugriva, trust that. Or it's not for you. Find something else and do it. Don't, I thank him for giving me a wonderful example to discuss. Therefore, I said it's not about Aruno Bhaumik. I don't know who that is, or he or she or that person, but it is the Vrutti. Okay, that's what I'm talking. So I said this, we must put our own efforts to understand it. Now I want to give you an example, and you have again seen it, but you may not remember the direction. Now, British, when they have colonized India and finding every way to loot India, okay, but all the aesthetic should be there. So what happened in that time? This is, we are talking 19th century and that time. Even afterwards, like 20th century early part, there were no aeroplane. Aeroplanes, commercial aeroplanes is not there. So the biggest, most sophisticated way of travel is by boat.
Yes.
And in Mumbai, they built something, Apollo Bandar. Okay, Apollo, right? Apollo. And they built another structure next to the Taj Mahal Hotel. Do you know what is it called?
No.
Gateway of India.
Gateway of India, that's right.
Right? Gateway of India. Now, Gateway of India for who? People coming from the West. Okay, that's what essentially, it's a gateway of India to all the colonialist, the British guys coming when they're coming with the boat, to Apollo, that port. That's what the whole idea is. Now, so it is like facing west, coming from the west, just like this candelabra of Andes. You see how the comparison is similar. Okay. Now, what if, so it is well known, say somebody coming from east, they would have called Kolkata as a gateway of India for those folks, but this is meant for this. Of course, people can come from anywhere. Similarly, in this case, people can come from north, people can come from Atlantic, make a turn around, around, what is that, Argentina, Chile, and come here. Guys, use Viveka. That's why the Valmiki is saying this is the end of eastern direction, as Sugriv explains.
And
So
they're
I am
coming
going
from
to
the
now.
east. They're coming from the east.
They're coming from the east,
Not
correct?
from
But
the
so,
west.
right, but they are coming from the east. That is correct, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, but they are going in the east direction too,
They're going
because
the east
Earth is
direction.
round, right?
That's right.
Earth is round. So Sugriva explains this as the end of a east direction, or a marker for the east direction, right? Because he's coming from the other side. From India, they are going eastward. Let me show you now this gateway of India and its location. Okay, the whole map can almost fit there. If you think, if I move this little bit to the right, it will almost feel like it fit. But this is Mumbai, and this is gateway of India. Now, this is the south direction, just like this. This is a perfect south direction. Just like candelabra of Andes, perfect north, but it's meant to be people coming from the west, and this is the marker of a east direction.
From the east.
Right. Similarly, this one is gateway of India for people coming from the west. Yes. Now, if someone just throws away one's Viveka Buddhi, or to begin with, one does not have that Viveka Buddhi, doesn't have the required prajna, the wisdom, okay, what happens? And the person doesn't have a Shraddha. He's saying, well, if this is facing south, how can it be for welcome gateway of India to people coming from the west? It's the exactly same stupidity. If somebody looks at this and says, oh, how can this be for the west? What is the connection of this for the east direction? Okay, again, I'm focusing on the Vritti, not the individual person, because, for one Arun Bhaumik, there are 1,000 others standing in the line, basically trying to do the same chaos. Okay, I just mentioned this. And in that context, I want to say a couple of things and then open up and want to hear your thoughts, for all of this, but specifically the Upasana, Shraddha, the importance of a guru, and so on and so forth, which is this. Now, when people, I took one line of Santa Ekanath, and humorously, I put it like Swami Nileshananda. Everyone knows who that is, Okay. So, out of that particular one, Nana Mate Pakhanda, Karmatata Atibanda, Tayanse Thetsane Tonda, Nyaya Vijnana Darshane. I wanted to convey multiple points with this. I have used this for a long time. So Tayache Thechane Tonda. It's a very rough language if people don't have a Viveka Buddhi to understand it. Like literally to smash somebody's face. You know, Sant Eknath is saying it. Nana Mate Pakhanda. People are so dogmatic, and not a dogma for one kind. One good example is the Mahabharata dating. Like 130 claims, and I'm willing to say that almost all of them, exceptions possibly 4 or 5 out of 130 over last 150 years, which are genuine efforts. Even though wrong, they are genuine efforts. But everything else is basically a dogma, basically pure ignorance. They fall into that Nana Mate Pakhanda. Karma Tatha Ati Bandha. Even when they know that they are wrong, they still want the popularity or whatever that it is. They don't give a hoot about what happens to the Indic narrative. Just don't care. They want whatever they have thought, whatever they have borrowed, or whatever in a random fashion they have come up with. They want that to be somehow recognized. And for that, they do not care what is the truth. Satyameva Jayate, no, that is just a pep talk. They don't care. Now, Eknath Maharaj was saying in this case, Tayanse Thetsane Tonda, but he did not use the last line, which I created for myself. I said, hey, this is my, what can you say, Adityaji? This is my mental, this is my inclination. I would prefer to do this, by Nyaya Vijnana, like Nyaya Darshana, the logic of scientific method, empirical evidence. That's what I am good at. That's what I like. That's what my inclination is. So in the Ikigai fashion or a Varnashrama fashion, I would say that's what it is. But let me show you what is the original of Santa Eknath, okay, who was a great, great individual who was around in 15th century, 16th century, somewhere there. He's basically, it is his. I have just taken and changed the last 1/4. Nana mate pakhanda, karma tata ati banda, tayanse thetsane tonda, hari bhajane. And I know you like it. Even I love it. And as I get this experience, like say for example Arunav Bhaumik asking, just not realizing that where the problem is, like people will not be willing to stand in front of the mirror to see what is the problem or where is the problem. Okay, but just I mean, they see that viveka is also not there. Some things, like when you and me do it, and sometimes we will talk certain things offline. But and again, that's not to say we won't make mistakes, so I'm not holding it against Arunav Bhaumik. But the point is, not even the basics of etiquette is there as to what to speak openly, what not to speak openly. And again, I'm not blaming the individual, because I have realized with this experience that like we talk about the Kanishta Bhakta and Madhyam Bhakta and Uttam Bhakta, it is something similar. I have some individuals, Adityaji, in my family. So forget about like blaming someone outside. I wouldn't even do that. There are members in my extended family who would not know what to say and where. Sometimes they will write atrociously nonsensical thing in open forums like Facebook or Twitter or places like that, or in a social gathering, they will say something. So yeah, how does Nyaya Vijnana Darshana works with them? And I think it doesn't work. I mean, that's my preference, but I know it doesn't work. And so like what you say, as I mean, many great saints say that, but Prabhupada is one such. He will say, for everyone there is a Krishna Prasad, right? And then the next the pyramid scheme, the next level of do is what everyone chants. Okay, the philosophy is not for everyone. Or even like within the Hare Krishna movement, as you know, like they will, a directional sense, now people misunderstand and create another chaos. But they'll say Bhagavad Gita is like a bachelor's, Bhagavatam is a master's, Chaitanya Charitamrita is PhD or something. And when we say that, now they will think, oh, this is a ISKCON discussion going on. So that's again a lack of a vivek, that people don't understand metaphors and think of like that. So I think actually Eknath Maharaj must have gone through what like I have gone, and I'm thinking Nyaya Vijnana is the best way to do it. Of course, I'm still sort of, what do you say, attached to it. But as we try to take the message to the masses, what I realize is at some point, And it's good that individuals learn it very fast, and I, as a communicator of knowledge, also learn very fast when to stop, saying, okay, thank you very much, hey, read my. And Aditya, I do that, by the way. This is my last comment, I'll give it to you. I do that, which is to say, before somebody asks a question and I used to get into the mode of explaining it again, I don't do that, because I assume a certain level of intellect, certain level of a vivek, a certain level of scientific acumen, logical reasoning. And this is why I'm not talking Aditya of ordinary folks. I'm talking about the so-called researchers, and not limited to Mahabharat dating, although I use that as a metaphor all the time. And I said, no, I mean, unless I have some idea that the person has got the basic etiquette or basic level of knowledge, I'm not going to waste my time. And this is a way of putting it negatively. I'm not going to waste my time. I think Santa Eknathji is so amazing individual, such a realized Atma, that he says, Nana mate pakhanda, karma tatha atibanda, tayanse thetsane tonda, hari bhajane. Says, Babare, chant, do the japa, do the japa. There is no, so for some people, if they have not got the basics, there is no point even talking of nyaya and vijnana. And I'm referring not to ordinary folks, I'm referring to many researchers. So that's it, Aditya ji. I would ask you to add any comments of yours. What are your thoughts on? You asked me for my thoughts. Let me ask you for your thoughts on this.
See, I tell you, when I went there, and I have a live experience of this place, and I'm looking at the curve in the small valley, like a small curve, like a bay, it is making a bay, and it is all desert.
Hmm.
And so you go from the mainland and you have to take a boat because rest everything is controlled by the Peruvian government.
Hmm.
So there, when you go, so this marker which shows, so the if you look at the exact Papua New Guinea and Peru line, if you draw a
Hmm.
straight line,
Hmm.
then it goes. Obviously, if you are looking at round Earth, you have to follow a curve, up or down, any curve you
Hmm.
choose.
Hmm.
So the location where Sugriva Senas must have come will be little north from here.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then they would have come down searching for it. And secondarily, Sugriva Senas had to search those markers which Sugriva had told them. So that because Sugriva had already hidden in all these places to save himself from Bali. So, like you said, Vivek, Buddhi, Shastra, like you have to have the Shraddha. All these things are, if I combine all, and also sadhana also, because all these great Vanaras
Hmm.
were parangat in Ved, Shastra, and everything.
Hmm.
They're the blessings. So
Right.
that due diligence they had to make, and plus they had to also search the Red River nearby,
Yeah.
Huaga River. Huaga
Right.
and Huaga has many tributaries,
Hmm.
and none of them
Hmm.
flows close to. Huaga River is
Hmm.
way south towards Cusco, and like you cannot find the Huaga River because it's all desert. So that means they have to
Hmm.
go inland now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Huaga River is in the middle of the Andes Mountains.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and there are multiple rivers who flow there, and the main river is usually it's today that it is in the mountain because the rivers change path. It's in the mountains, but earlier they told me it used to flow towards the coast. So things have changed over there, but you have to collect all information, then come at a conclusion. What is this? Like you said
Right.
correctly.
Exactly. So, for example, in a very childish fashion, like a balya avastha, somebody says, "Oh, so you are building the gateway of India for folks coming from the west, but why are you putting it facing south?" Well, you should come to this Walkeshwar temple here, and that's where you should build it. That way, it will be like this. Well, that's why Upanishad are saying Tasmat Brahmana, Pandityam Nirvidya Balena Tishta said, I mean, so like you have to digest the Panditya, but you have to also digest the Balya, Balyam Pandityam cha Nirvidya Atha Muni, Amaunam cha Amaunam cha Nirvidya Atha Brahmana, then you are truly realizing. But if it is not for everyone, I truly believe that Shraddha can take you a long way if you
Along.
get the right person, but you have to have a Shraddha,
Correct.
right? So that's the challenge, right? So that's all I have, but I thought like this was, and again to Arunava Bhomikji, it was not about you, so I hope you understand that it is not about the vyakti, but it's about the vritti. And this is very common. I mean, I just took that as a wonderful example, again, a simple example, and his comment or her comment was so beautiful, so nicely crisply written, that it is good to explain. Many times, Adityaji, the way the people write comments, you can't even understand what they're telling you, whether they're asking or telling or what to do. And you have to, even if you want to respond, and they may be very sincere in what they're doing, it is very difficult for me to respond. And I'm sure you find the same thing. So that's all I have, by the way.
Thank you so much. And thank you for viewers. Do one thing, do let us know your feedback. And like I always love your comments over here. We read all the comments. I read all your comments. And we try to answer some of them, not all of them. But one thing we always say nowadays, share, like, and subscribe, and let us know your feedback. Namaste.
Namaskar.